Buffington from MMA Fight Coverage. Anderson, I wanted to ask you if the payout for this is comparable to what you were making in the UFC, or is it much higher? And assuming that it is much higher, would you have taken this fight if it wasn't the payout amount? Would you have taken the fight just because you're fighting Jake Paul, or are you fighting for the money?
Wow. I don't... So let me tell you something. Everybody asks me about that situation, you know, but I don't have problem to talking about that. And when I start fighting UFC, I make good contract. And every single fight, every single moment, I change my contract. I change everything. And I make good money. I don't have crazy life, you know, and that's I save my money, and I make a lot of money in UFC. Of course, I can't say that my last fight in Mexico, I make more money than my two last fight in UFC.
I think you spent all your money on your toys.
Yeah,
Saw that. It's a lot of toys, you know, Anderson.
Yeah, I buy toys.
It's a lot of toys.
Yeah, a lot of toys.
This is the Schmo with the Schmo Zone. Question for the problem child.
I'm not a fan of the Schmo sometimes. Anyway, listen, it's this weekend. It's going to be $59.99. They're out of control with this shit, yo. Out of control. Some people are saying this is where the Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford money went to fucking Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. Now, see, here's the thing. I have some intrigue in the fight. It was a little bit of fight week drama with what Anderson Silva had to say to MMA Weekly. Let's go listen to that right here.
The last sparring with Eliezer is my partner. He's knocked me out 2 times, and when I finish the training, I talk to my coach Nico and say, Coach, let me tell you something. Why the guys knocked me out 2 times, and the coach say, you need to prepare for war. And the last sparring.
So he's trying to say that he was not, he came out later to say that he was knocked down in sparring, not knocked out, and it just was lost in translation. So, you know, the Arizona State Athletic Commission, you know, wanted to like go check in on Silva, last reports. But basically the press conference went on. Everything's cool. The fight is a go. I still have Anderson Silva. And one thing is, you know, there's no losing situation for Jake Paul. You see what I'm saying? Because if he loses, like, well, you know, I lost to a legend, you know, in Anderson Silva. We're still overall as boxing people waiting for him to fight a real boxer. That's what we want. You know? But, you know, they did go on to say that if Anderson Silva loses, he is going to start a organization here. Let me let them explain it.
Has been bets, Jake. I'm just wondering if this time around, are we going to do that, or?
I have a bet.
You do?
I have a bet.
Wow.
I have a bet for you, Anderson.
For Anderson, okay.
All right. It's a good one. It's a good one.
No.
All right, so look. If you win, I'll give you something that you probably want.
Okay, you start again. No tattoos.
No.
No tattoos.
No, if you win, I will fight you in an MMA fight.
Whoa!
Wow.
You're so smart because I don't fight MMA anymore. You're so smart.
Kickboxing.
I got you.
Kickboxing.
Okay. Kickboxing. All right.
Kickboxing. But if I win, me and you come together to create a United Fighters Association.
Now, you see how it's not a lose situation for Jake Paul. And remember, he's a social media influencer. He knows exactly what he's doing. You know, and this is similar to the content to an extent. I mean, it is, you know, high level combat sports, but, you know, Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva in an MMA fight, that's not a lose for Jake Paul. Yeah, he may lose in the octagon, definitely. But you know how many views that's going to get? He knows what he's doing. You know, he knows what he's doing.
To help UFC fighters get better pay and better health care, you become the interim president, and we unite to help these fighters once and for all.
Deal.
Wow.
Let's go.
That's a official right there. That's official. And I had no idea. That's huge. So again, if you lose, you will fight him in a kickboxing match. You're sure about this? Before we make it 100%, kickboxing, not MMA?
Yeah. No, MMA not. No, it's too hard.
It's too hard. So kickboxing.
It's too hard. Yeah, kickboxing.
Kickboxing.
Right.
And if you win, he is going to help you start essentially an MMA Fighters Association, a UFC Fighters Association.
Correct.
Not UFC Fighters Association, but MMA associations for help
all fighters.
all MMA fighters.
All fighters to help them get increased fighter pay and long-term health care.
Wow. You're down with that?
Yeah. Deal.
Dr. Mike's going to jump in too. You're going to be a part.
I mean, it sounds good, but, you know, Jake Paul also has a very dodgy reputation online outside of boxing circles, you know. He seems to have matured like a lot since he got into boxing, combat sports, and sports overall. Is said to do that to individuals. But do y'all think that you know, like that he really cares about, you know, the MMA and the UFC fighters, or is this just some type of ploy? I don't know. I mean, it's good. You know, I'm just, you know, it's you know, good thoughts. I'm just hoping that it's genuine.
Part of this also, Dr. Mike.
And we need all the help we could get. You know,
Okay.
guys like Francis, Israel, you know, even Andre Ward spoke about this in the boxing world. GSPs tried to make this happen before, so we would just need all the help we could get.
Boxers need this too. Let's not get it twisted.
And I think Anderson is a great first
Absolutely.
start.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Nikisa, are you okay with that? Yeah? I just want to make sure as Jake's business partner. Okay, he gave the thumbs up. Can't wait. We're either getting a kickboxing rematch or an MMA Fighters Association. I love it. All right, that was a lot of fun, guys. How about that?
Here, let's face the fighters off, and then talk about the undercard.
Get your popcorn!
I hate that fucking robot. I hate robots, cannibals, and fucking vampires. Like, can't stand them. Let's meet that anyway. Let's talk about this undercard. So it's going to be $59.99 on Showtime boxing pay-per-view and on Fight.tv, the online combat sports boxing streaming service. I don't want to pull the undercard screen up yet, but you know, it's a somewhat busy weekend with Katie Taylor returning against Brenda Carvajal. That's going to be on the Zone midday card here in the States because it's over in the UK. That's Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike versus who's this guy? Chris Avila. That guy in the back, that's the Nikisa dude. Looks like he's good with knives. That's Jake Paul's manager. He looked like sometimes he be dressed in the suits, make him look like the evil villain from like action movies that be good with knives. You got Uriah Hall versus Le'Veon Bell. I saw Le'Veon Bell, covered him, knocked the shit out of Adrian Peterson. I got Uriah Hall, you know, former UFC fighter. Let's see what they got up next. I mean, you know, it's depends on what you're looking for, but I do think the bubble is bursting on these YouTuber fights. The numbers are not doing what they used to be doing. You know, like the gimmick is kind of like, the gimmick is fading. I'm not gonna say it's kind of, it is fading. And it's about time for Jake Paul to fight real boxers to start stepping up his boxing career. So, you know, I get it. The Nick Diaz fight is out there. Of course, a rematch with Anderson Silva. You know, the Tommy Fury fight is out there. Tommy Fury's fighting soon, by the way, as well. He's fighting on that Mayweather Deji card. I'd be lying to you if I told you I know who these dudes are.
It's Puerto Rico versus Mexico in a rematch 6 years in the making. You okay?
6 years, damn. Is that Antonio Neves and Alejandro?
Two great bantamweights going toe-to-toe for the hardcore boxing community. It's Antonio Nieves versus Alexandro Santiago 2.
Alessandro.
All right, we keep things rolling along here. We say hello to one of the brightest young stars in boxing, just 18 years young, a perfect 7-0, the first prospect signed by MVP. We say hello to Aston H2O Sylve.
Aston Sylve. He's
And we
supposed to be
say
like
hello
good.
one more time to his opponent, Braulio Rodriguez. They're facing off. In the co-headliner, El Chavo Braulio Rodriguez, representing the Dominican Republic, going up against Aston H2O Sylve. Aston H2O Sylve, remember the name, fighting on his biggest stage yet. One of the brightest prospects in boxing, facing his toughest test in the Dominican Republic's Braulio Rodriguez. And now time for the headliner, the one you're here for. It's the undefeated, the problem child, the pride of Cleveland, the social media sensation, the one and only Jake Paul versus the greatest middleweight champion in the history of the UFC, one of the greatest fighters in the history of mixed martial arts, the man who shocked the boxing world when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and beat him last year, the one and only, the inimitable Anderson Silva.
He said he made more when he fought Chavez Jr. than he made for his last 2 UFC fights. That makes sense. Fucking Chavez Jr. disgraced us. Chavez Jr. would be the one to lose to an MMA fighter, a former world champion, boxing champion, by the way. It would be him or Broner.
It's the new school versus the old school. It's the MMA legend against the social media legend. It's Anderson Silva versus Jake Paul, and the stakes have been raised. You heard it moments ago. There is an actual belt on the line between these two guys. There's a belt and a bet.
What belt's on the line?
And now we'll say hello one more time, one final time, to all the 10 fighters competing on this card. Main card starts at 9 p.m. Pacific. Excuse me, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Showtime pay-per-view.
I'm Googling to see what belt. By the way, somebody asked
10 fighters competing on this pay-per-view card this Saturday from the Desert Diamond Arena here in beautiful Glen.
That's the end of that. By the way, somebody asked, GSP is supposed to be in attendance. And apparently, GSP can't fight because he's still under contract with UFC. That's pretty crazy. You know, that's pretty crazy. And he's still relatively young. How old is GSP? Let me check real quick. And by the way, take your time out, like the video, subscribe. 41. I mean, he still can do something in combat sports and in boxing. He got a couple more years left. You know, but he seems to be doing good. He gave Captain America a good run for his money. Anyway, take your time out, like the video, subscribe. I'm going to be here covering this card along with Loma versus Jermaine Ortiz. My man Rabisi Ramirez versus Jose Matias Romero. And Jojo Diaz versus William Zepeda is a fight I'm really interested in. Thanks for watching. Please take your time out, like the video, subscribe. The fight's going to be this weekend, Saturday, October the 29th, on pay-per-view, fight.tv, and Showtime Boxing pay-per-view for $59.99.